Okay guys, hello and welcome back. In this video I had made a promise that I was going to help you guys learn how to make sketches inside of the program. But on second thought, I realized that for brand new users, there should be a much more in-depth talk about navigating the 3D space that you get with a brand new part file. And the reason for that is because of the differences between SolidWorks and some of the other CAD packages that I'm sure you're going to use in your career. Okay, so here's a brand new part file that we've just opened, and as you can see what you get with SolidWorks, you start off with this giant kind of expansive nothingness. And if you're not familiar with the program, it can kind of seem like there's nothing here to work on. If we look at a program like Rhino, I've got Rhino here. This is what you get with Rhino, and this is very similar to what you'd get with Alias, okay? You've got a top view window, a front view window, and then a right view window. And then you've got a perspective window here that you can toggle around in and move around in space. And you get this really friendly grid that kind of helps you understand. It's very intuitive. All right, this is your ground plane. You build up from there, right? You can go to side view and stuff here. So in my opinion, this is a little bit better layout as far as just helping your brain understand 3D space. And SolidWorks is a little bit more confusing. So one of the things I like to do to kind of demystify this large design area here without any indication of 3D whatsoever besides this little navigation jack down here. And so just go to these planes, okay? So we've got a front plane, a top plane, and then a right plane, okay? So if I just go ahead and show all these planes, it starts to make a little bit more sense, right? These planes are kind of like the windows that you see in Rhino, right? You've got a front plane, a right plane, and a top plane. Looking at Rhino, front plane, right plane, top plane, okay? So same sort of thing, but just a different layout, and can be kind of confusing. So another thing to talk about here is how to move around in this 3D space. With SolidWorks, we use the middle mouse button. Click the middle mouse button and just toggle around. There you go. And practice that quite a bit. Get used to it. All right. A couple other things about navigating in 3D space as far as 3D CAD is concerned. When you're doing 3D CAD and you're trying to move around a model, you're trying to use the program, whatever it is, whether it's SolidWorks, Alias, Rhino, Maya, it's always a two-handed operation. So I want you to take your left hand, put it over the Shift key, and notice the buttons that are there. You've got Shift, Control, and Alt, okay? So if we hold down Shift and middle mouse button, we can zoom in and zoom out, all right? Zoom out, zoom in. There you go. Hold down Control and go middle mouse button, and this will allow you to move the entire world around like that. Okay? Hold down Alt and middle mouse button. You will rotate around the origin point. All right? Now that brings me to the origin. The origin is the center point of all of these planes together. That is the center of your world, and you can see it over here in your design tree. Here's the origin, that little blue dot that just popped up. All right, it's a very important point to bring up in SolidWorks. It's where you're going to be building most all of your models, okay? It's going to help you a lot when you're zooming in and out if you have your model built off of the origin, because it'll keep your model centered in the 3D world that you get with the program. Like I was saying about zooming in and out using Shift and middle mouse button, there's also just the option to use the scroll wheel. You can hover your cursor over a point that you'd like to zoom in on, and then just scroll wheel in, and it'll zoom you right in on that point. Or you can zoom back out as well. You want to go over to this corner and zoom in on just this corner, hover your mouse over it, and scroll wheel in to zoom up right on that point. Zoom out. Now this can get you in trouble if you have your mouse pointed way over here in the corner or something, and you go to zoom in, and you zoom right past your model. If that happens to you and you lose your model, just always remember the F key. F brings you back to front and center. Okay? Excuse me. A couple other things to point out here. Later in our next video, we're going to be talking about sketching, and in order to create a sketch in SolidWorks, you have to pick a plane to draw on. When you pick a plane to draw on, drawing on it in perspective like this in 3D is going to be very difficult. So there's a function inside SolidWorks called normal to, and what that is it just brings you front and center so that you're looking directly straight on to whatever plane you are trying to draw on. So in my case, I want to look at this front plane. I might want to draw a sketch on that front plane, But if I use my middle mouse button to kind of try to orientate myself so that I'm looking directly at it, I can get very close, but I've been doing this for a while. For new users, it can be really hard to line yourself up perfectly, and mathematically, you'll never get it perfectly right on just trying to toggle yourself right into the right position. So there's a hotkey that is Control 8, and Control 8 brings you normal to a plane. So if I just hit Control 8, you see that it brings me perfectly perpendicular to that plane so that I can begin a drawing. Okay? There's a bunch of ways to get normal to an object in SolidWorks. For one, you can just click on the plane, and there's an icon here that says normal to. If I click on that, it brings me normal to the plane. Middle mouse button again to go back into 3D. There's another big way to navigate to normal to, and that's up here in your heads-up display. We haven't talked about any of these yet, but one of them, if you hover over them, you'll get display style. That's not the one we're going to use. We're going to use view orientation here. If I click this button, I get this giant thing. This is an orientation box here, okay? And this allows you to click on any one of the panels of this box, and it'll bring you to that view. So I can go like that. The other way to get this view orientation box, besides hitting this button, is to hit the space bar. So you hit space bar and it opens it up, and then you can just choose, oh, I want to look at it from the top. There you go. Space bar again. I want to look at it from the back over here. There's the back view. Space bar. Oh, I want to look at it 3/4 view. I'll just hit this piece. There you go. All right. So that's a big thing. Hitting the space bar is a pretty quick way to get yourself orientated to your part. Other ways to do it, just grab the plane you want to look at and go normal to. And bring you right normal to that plane. Okay? All right, so practice that quite a bit. Play around with some of the buttons that come up when you hit this view orientation. There's a bunch of different icons that all do the same thing, basically. Another fun one in here is this one right here, which changes your view to an actual 4-panel view. Okay? So this is front, top, trimetric, and left. This is the same sort of scenario that you get in Rhino, just a different story, right? I have to admit that I rarely use this program like this, so I like to leave it off. So I'll just go back here to view orientation, and we'll just bring it back to the original single view. There it is. Takes a second. Okay, so practice looking normal to stuff. Practice using your middle mouse button to toggle around in 3D space, and get ready to try to make a decision about which one of these planes you're going to want to draw your sketches on, because that's what we're going to do in our next video. All right? Okay, good news. Thanks a lot for watching.